Right, with me now is CTV's military analyst and former commander of NATO forces in southern Afghanistan, retired Major General David Fraser. Major General, good morning to you. Good to see you.
Good morning. Good to be with you, Marcia.
I want to begin by asking about your take on what we heard from Keir Starmer, sending those 4 additional jets. What does that signal to you about Britain's involvement? Are they getting pulled into this on a bigger scale?
Well, he certainly is under the pressure of his best partner, Donald Trump, and he's actually backing into this war, just trying to stay out of the dander of the Trump administration. And so sending in 4 more jets to, quote unquote, protect British citizens and do defensive measures, it sounds good, but if you're flying and you're shooting, what's offensive, what's defensive? But, Great Britain seems to be inching into this slowly.
Do you think other countries will be pulled in as well? And I'd like you to reference what we heard from our Canadian Prime Minister on that.
I don't think other countries are going to get pulled into this. I mean, Australia and Canada have been the only ones that stood up and say we support the United States and Israel, what they're doing. But our Prime Minister, there was so much in his statement. It was a masterpiece in communications. We were not, talked about or informed about this. We're not part of the offensive operations. We'll defend Canadian interests. We'll never leave anything off the table. He said an awful lot at the same time as supporting the United States. But, it was limited to, how they're doing what they're doing right now versus what Canada is prepared to do. It was masterful.
How do you see this war, this conflict playing out in the next couple of days?
Well, Marcia, I do believe we're going to see an awful lot more of what we've been saying. The intensity is not as much as notwithstanding what Hegseth has said or the president has said, the intensity of the exchange is diminishing. This might be because of the sheer economics of just, 2,000 plus targets have already been engaged, and whether or not both sides have the munitions to do it. The fact that we're now into the 12th country that's been attacked, Azerbaijan this morning, Iran still has the capability to attack. It's still trying to draw in more countries. And we're just going to see this thing spill out to even more countries, more missiles. But the question is, how long can it be sustained before negotiations start happening? What we're not seeing on the ground is the Iranian people standing up and taking over the regime. So that's one of the objectives that does not seem to be happening.
And Canada is making greater efforts to get people out. We heard from Foreign Minister Anita Anand on that late yesterday. Do you see a scenario where the Canadian military is deployed to help stranded Canadians there?
I think that's one of the options on the table. It would certainly be easier to, and more, politically acceptable to send the Canadian Armed Forces, Hercules or C-17 into an area where they're actually trained to do this, and then bring them out to a safe area like Oman or somewhere else in the Gulf where they can be transferred onto an Air Canada or some other, commercial jet. But you don't want to send a commercial jet in there and risk losing that commercial jet to combat fire. That's what Canadian forces are done, and now the question is, which option are they going to take?
Yeah, and if that were to occur, what are the risks or perils involved in that, sending a military aircraft over in lieu of a commercial jet?
Well, the risk is, wherever they're landing, if they're landing in Dubai or Abu Dhabi or someplace like that, and they're going to pull people out, or, the question is, does that airport get attacked on the way? They have risk of going through the air defense envelopes, and there's multiple. We just saw 3 F-15s shot down the other day by mistake. So that's the risk that, a Canadian Air Force plane would take. But, our men and women who fly these aircraft are some of the best trained in the world, and they've got defensive measures. So it's a calculated risk. It's not a gamble.
Major David Fraser, Major General, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time with us as always.
Marcia, thank you.